as well.
So,
So
hello
our next
everyone.
speaker today
Let me
comes
first
from
say that
Greece.
it's a great honor
And
to be
Andreas,
here
I'm
with
very, very pleased
this
to
teach
have
meet
you
with
here with
such
us
wonderful
today.
colleagues from
And
all around
the
Europe,
floor is yours.
and especially one hosted by my two favorite educators in the world. Let I dare say education icons, Arjana and Bart, whose work I am a huge fan of, and so thank you so much for having me here today. And let me say that it's really cool to be here with all of you. It feels like a party. Anyway, it's the closest to a party I will be attending in the foreseeable future. But it's also a proof that we may not have the right medicine for the coronavirus right now, but we have the tools to fight and cope with social distancing and reach out to each other. So, a few words about me and my school. I teach junior high school students Greek language, literature, and civics. My school is situated in the northern part of Greece, near Thessaloniki. It is a small school of less than 100 students in a village of less than 3,000 inhabitants, most of whom are farmers. The chronicle I am about to narrate begins a few weeks ago when watching closely the news about the coronavirus outbreak and spread throughout Europe. I realized that the school's shutdown was a possible contingency, and I decided that I have to start preparing myself for such a possibility. So I decided to use a platform I have been using before in order to communicate asynchronously with my students from home, a platform that many of you might be familiar with, the Edmodo platform. It is a safe network that enables teachers to share content, distribute quizzes, assignments, and manage communication with students, parents, and other teachers. The interface is inspired by Facebook, and I find it quite useful, especially when working with smaller students of lower secondary education. It is free, easy to use, and parents and students can only join if a teacher asks them to do so, invites them to do so. Plus, there is an application that they can download on their mobile phones, which is important nowadays. So I had all my students join the Edmodo platform, and I also encouraged them to ask their parents to join. Not many parents have joined yet, I have to admit. And we come to day zero. On Tuesday, the 10th of March, around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it was announced on TV that all Greek schools were to close for at least a couple of weeks. A decision that was met, let me say, by the majority of my students with enthusiasm and cheers. The ministry announced that there will be a centrally organized attempt to move all classrooms online, but this will take several days to organize, and the priority will be given to 12th grade students. So I decided that meanwhile, it was important to stay in touch with my students, and I started using the Edmodo platform more and more. This was my own initiative. It was not centrally organized by my school, and I think that only me and another colleague have been trying to keep in touch with our students so far. My first concern and my main concern was to keep my students informed because they are exposed to so many fake news nowadays. So I created a folder where I uploaded all the formal material distributed by the Ministry and the World Health Organization. My second goal was to provide them with some emotional and psychological support because their first initial enthusiasm started fading away, and they started experiencing anxiety, fear, and stress. So to achieve this, I decided that it was important to keep it simple at first, and I am going to present you a simple strategy. But it was really important to have a schedule. For example, I assign them a small task every day in the morning, every morning. They might need to take part in a small poll, or read a small text, or watch a small video. It gives them a sense of normality. It helps them structure their day and keep them engaged. So, having established a regular online communication with my students on an everyday basis, I decided that it was time to take it a step further and have our first synchronous meeting on Sunday. I suggested that we could use a couple of tools, but most of my students were reluctant to download new apps on their mobile phones and start getting familiar with them. So the one app most of them were familiar already with was Skype. And I decided to go for it because this time I don't think that we have to, that we need discuss a lot about the tools. It's not the tool that matters. It is urgent to reach out to them. So Skype it was then, and as you can imagine, since this was not something obligatory, the attendance was not at all perfect. Nearly 40% of them turned up, and some of the excuses I heard was there was a problem with the internet connection, I didn't have enough space on my mobile phone to download Skype, I don't know how Skype works, I totally forgot about it. Usual excuses that we hear in class every day. Although there is a case of a particular student of mine who actually might not have internet access, and this is something that has been troubling me in order to find a way to reach out to him, and I only can communicate with him if I call him. I have not found another way yet. And as we do on the first day of the school year, we try to establish a kind of online classroom rules contract. So cameras and mics off unless I tell them to turn them on. We don't talk all together. There are a couple of tools that you can use to have your students actively engaged in the meeting, the chat box that the Skype provides, or Padlet or Mentimeter, but I won't go into any more details on that. We also agreed upon the frequency and day and time of our meetings. This first meeting ran relatively smooth, and most of the students seemed relieved that we met once again, even though remotely, and they were engaged. One of the collective decisions we reached on this first meeting was about the activities we will try to carry out the following days. Since our synchronous meetings are going to be once or twice a week, we need to keep engaged in other asynchronous activities in the meantime. So we decided that we would continue reading the book we had started in class, but this time the reading has to be done on its own time. Luckily, I had already created a blog with activities that students can visit and take part in them. I'm also planning to create a triseason like I have done in the past with other books in order to have them discuss their ideas, reactions and views on the books. I find Tricider a very useful tool for this kind of discussion. It is important to be creative and take advantage of tools that students have already used in their everyday life, like social media. For example, I assigned another class of mine the following task. They are to read The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry and post stories on Instagram inspired by the reading. The stories you see were uploaded yesterday, and they have to use a certain hashtag in order for me to track all the stories they have uploaded. Because I don't have them as friends on my Instagram account. I think that fan activities and creative activities have more chances to keep students engaged rather than stick to the curriculum right now. I have decided that at least at the beginning I won't cover any new material, but I will try to assign small quizzes to my students for revision. Of course, under the circumstances, almost all of them will be tempted to cheat and search the correct answers either online or chatting with their fellow students. It's a new form of cheating. Let us call it e-cheating. And yesterday I had a second meeting with one of my classes. As you can see, many more students attended. Actually, all week I have been receiving messages from students that didn't attend this first meeting, telling me that they eventually downloaded the app and they want to join the second meeting. So if we give our students time, they will eventually seek the sense of community that the classroom provides us with, even in this remote form. But as more students attended, they started taking advantage of every opportunity to make mischief this new medium offered. So they muted my microphone. They took snapshots. They were quite inventive in finding ways to interrupt the process. It was really fun, I have to say, but I think that in the future I might need new ways to manage this kind of behavior. I might have to suspend them, have them log out of the meeting, suspend them, let's say. On the other hand, it was the first time a whole hour went by without anyone asking to visit the toilet, like in the classroom. Plus, they cannot claim that they have forgotten their books and notebooks at home anymore. So the key to happiness is low expectations, and I think that the same goes for remote teaching. Keep it simple. Don't expect to achieve everything at once. Don't expect all students to join and be active. After all, aren't there students who don't engage even in when we teach in person? My plans for the future, the following weeks I plan to experiment with new firsts. My first remote parents meeting, a Skype call with parents, and co-teaching online. I love co-teaching, but in the everyday school routine I don't have many chances to do so. So now I have an opportunity to do so online. That was it. Thank you for listening. Stay home, keep safe, stay connected, and reach out to your students. Thank you very much for your attention.